Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're just looking through some of the demands of ASUU from themselves to the federal government and the list there. But if I could pick up with the second to the last one, non-release of subvention to state universities by their visitors. But you have those who will ask you, ASUU goes for these meetings with the federal government who run federal universities. But here they are asking for subvention for state universities by their visitors being state governors. So those who will wonder, wait a minute, what's the correlation? How do they get that to happen?
Whether state or federal government-owned, universities are universities in the country. We have ASUU, which is a federal government controlling body for all universities in Nigeria. So ASUU should be concerned with what is going on in both private and state-owned universities. This one that we are talking about, it's take LAUTECH, for instance, owned by 2 state governments. There have been a strike now for God knows when, simply because of money. So ASUU will not say because we negotiate with federal government that we will not talk about the plight of state or private universities.
What do they expect? That the federal government will...
That the visitors should release money.
That's the state.
At least the federal government is doing better than the state government in terms of university.
But is the federal government going to agree on behalf of the states?
Yeah, federal government, you know, governors are under the state. Right? Anyway, governors are governors of states within the country.
So why don't they channel those demands to the visitors, the governors?
That one is ongoing. That is, the ASUU of each of those universities are discussing with their proprietors. But ASUU should not, national, you know, it's for all universities in the country. So there's nothing wrong in including the plight of state universities.
Yeah, but then look at that, the last point there, withdrawal of support for university staff primary schools. We all know that when we have the staff primary schools, they're usually an integral part of the education process. You have them graduating from those schools into the university.
The owners of the university used to release money for salaries of all staff, all lecturers, all admin staff, including staff teaching in their primary schools. So now they withdrew support. They are no longer sending money as part of the subvention. No longer sending it. So universities will now have to look for how to pay the staff. And that means increasing school fees. And let me tell you, staff schools and universities is the only hope of the junior workers. Some of us, we send our children to private universities, private fee-paying primary schools. But many of the staff in university who are not, whose salaries are not high, they rely only on staff school. Now you must either double or triple the school fees for them to be, which they won't be able to afford. So I really don't know why federal government said they will no longer include salaries of staff of primary schools in the subvention.
What do you think about university autonomy?
Autonomy. Well, autonomy is autonomy. It's an English word. But it does not mean that every university can do whatever they like on their own. No. Autonomy just means allowing the universities to go through the democratic process in electing who will be their vice chancellors, as it is in the statutes.
I thought it was a monetary autonomy.
Monetary autonomy is more of an administrative thing than monetary. Yeah, it's not about.
So how do they begin to fund themselves
Let me tell you one
if they
thing.
become
Autonomy
autonomous?
does not mean that every university should not generate funds. You know how much each university gets as subvention. Some university gets very close to $1 billion in a month. If you say autonomy should go to the area of finance, then every university in the year will have to pay about 600,000 to 1 million, depending on the cost. If you want, just take a look at the ASUU. ASUU publishes in the papers what they send to universities every month, sometimes. Take a look at what a university gets. Like UI, for instance, 900 million. I think it's been reduced to about 800 million now. OAU, 700 million and above. I don't have the exact figures. If you divide that by the number of students and multiply by 12, you are going to get something close to 1 million. And that's what each student will have to pay for the teachers and the administrators to get salary. So every university, UI, the pioneer university, the first university in this university, still collects salaries from federal government every month. If you want universities to be autonomous in terms of finance, then they have to charge to fees. And if they charge to fees, how many parents in Nigeria have the financial power to pay?
You're in a better position to tell us because, I mean, you're pioneer vice chancellor of a private one.
Of a private university, where fees, are very high compared with federal and state government universities. Yet we still get subvention from our proprietors. We had
1 point in 2016. We had 1.5 trillion naira as, should I say, fees that is being paid out of Nigeria for students that are schooling outside of Nigeria. Yes. Does that really bring concerns to us as a people and as a government that perhaps the kind of education we are given in this country is much more expensive than outside of here?
If Nigerians pay trillions of naira as school fees outside this country, it's because their wards or their children will not get admitted into Nigerian universities. That's just, and it's for the wealthy. How many Nigerians can afford to pay almost $1 million every year for their children's education in Ghana?
But that's a record amount, 1.5 trillion naira. It's unprecedented.
If the conditions there were conducive, then people will not go out of this country for tertiary education. Imagine if somebody wants to study medicine now in a place like OAU, you have to score about 280 or 290. So if you score 240, which is a pass mark, and you cannot gain admission, and your father has enough money to send you to Ghana, then you go.
We'll come to that pass mark, hopefully. But let's see, Marco has got a question for you. Go ahead, please.
I just talk about the pass mark now, because part of the accusations against private universities, I mean, Prof, you have never hidden your agitation that the federal government should also find a way to subsidize the private universities so that more Nigerian students can get into private universities. But then there's the question now that private universities are the ones lowering the standards so that people can get admission into their schools. JAMB has had to release figures, and we understand that about 27 private universities have their scores around 100.